The year is 1910. A private railcar sits on a siding in Hoboken, New Jersey, middle of the night. No lights. 6 men bored in silence. They're told to use first names, only new last names. No titles. If anyone asks which, they won't. They're duck hunters heading south for the season. Here's what they're not saying. These 6 men control roughly 1/4 of the planet's wealth. They represent Morgan Rockefeller, Rothschild, the biggest banks you've never heard of and a few you have. Combined, their institutions hold assets worth more than $300 billion in today's money. That's not their net worth. That's what they control. The train pulls out at 11:47 p.m. Destination: Jekyll Island, Georgia, a private hunting club. No press, no government.
Maybe.
No records. For 90 days, they will lock themselves in a room and design something that doesn't exist yet. A central bank for the United States. When they're done, they'll control the dollar. Not just their dollars, yours and you. You won't know about this meeting for another 24 years. So why the secrecy? Let's rewind 3 years. October 1907, Wall Street is imploding. It starts with a copper speculation scheme that goes sideways. A few trust companies, basically banks that aren't technically banks, start hemorrhaging depositor cash. Rumors spread, panic spreads faster. Within days, it's a full-on bank run. The Knickerbocker Trust Company collapses on October 22nd. Depositors line up around the block, demanding their money. The company doesn't have it. Nobody does. That's how fractional reserve banking works. They lend out $9 for every one they actually keep. The stock market loses nearly 50% of its value in 3 weeks. Factories shut down. Railroads go bankrupt. Ordinary people, shopkeepers, teachers, dock workers watch their savings evaporate. Now here's the kicker. There's no Federal Reserve yet. No central bank. No lender of last resort. When the banks run out of money, that's it. Game over. So who stops the bleeding? One man? J.P. Morgan? He's 70 years old. Smokes cigars the size of your forearm, and has a nose the color of a plum thanks to a skin condition called rhinophy. He looks like a villain from a Dickens novel, and right now, he's the only thing standing between America and total economic collapse. Morgan locks the most powerful bankers in his personal library on Madison Avenue. He won't let them leave until they agree to pool their money and stop the panic. Legend says he literally locked the door and pocketed the key. It works. Barely. But here is what Morgan learns. Relying on one guy's personal fortune to save the economy is a stupid system. And more importantly, the public is pissed. Newspaper editorials call him a tyrant, a financial dictator. Congress starts making noise about regulation. Teddy Roosevelt, who hates monopolists, is in the White House, and he's sharpening his antitrust acts. Morgan and his circle realize something. They need insurance, a way to control the money supply without looking like they're controlling it. They need a central bank. But they can't just ask for one. Americans have killed central banks twice before, once in 1811, once in 1836. The public doesn't trust centralized financial power, so they'll have to build one in secret. Jekyll Island, Georgia, November 1910. The club is technically closed for the season, which is perfect. The only people on the island are the 6 conspirators and a handful of servants who VC'd ND. Let me introduce the crew. Nelson Aldrich, Republican senator from Rhode Island, chairman of the National Monetary Commission. His daughter is married to John D. Rockefeller Jr. So yeah, he's connected. Frank Vanderbilt, president of National City Bank, the largest bank in America, represents the Rockefeller interests. Henry Davison, a senior partner at J.P. Morgan and Co. Morgan's attack dog, Charles Norton, president of First National Bank of New York. Another Morgan lieutenant, Benjamin Strom. Also, Morgan, head of Bankers Trust. He allowed later become the first governor of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York's most powerful position in the system they about to design. This guy's the brains. German-born banker, partner at Kuhn, Loeb & Co., which represents the Rothschild interests. Warburg has studied European central banks his entire career. He knows how this works. 6 men, 9 days. They set up shop in the clubhouse. Maps, charts, drafts. They argue. Lord Aldrich wants the bank to be controlled by Congress. Warburg thinks that's insane. Congress will turn it into a political football. Vanderlip wants a single central bank. Norton wants regional banks to dilute power. But here's what they all agree on. The new system has to look like it's controlled by the government, but it has to function like it's controlled by them. Warburg proposes a hybrid model, multiple regional reserve banks 12, eventually coordinated by a central board in Washington. The board members are appointed by the president, so it looks public. But the regional banks, those are owned by private member banks. In other words, the banks regulate themselves. And the real power, it's in New York. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York will be the muscle. It'll conduct open market operations, hold the gold reserves, interact with European central banks. Strong will run it. Now, here's where it gets clever. They decide to call it the Federal Reserve instead of the central bank. Sounds more American, less European, less scary, and they'll frame it as a defense against the money trust, not a tool of the money trust. By day 9, they've got a draft. It's 55 pages, the blueprint for the Federal Reserve System. They burn their notes. They leave separately. They don't speak about the meeting in public for more than 2 decades. Senator Aldrich takes the plan back to Washington. But here's the problem. Congress hates it. The Aldrich plan is its coal gets torn apart in committee. Democrats smell Morgan all over it. Populists and progressives unite against it. William Jennings Bryan, the 3-time Democratic presidential candidate, calls it a banker's bill. He's not wrong. The plan dies. So Morgan's crew regroups. They need a rebrand. Enter Woodrow Wilson, 1912. Wilson runs for president as a Democrat, campaigning against the money trust. He promises to break up monopolies and restore power to the people. He wins. Now, you think this is bad news for Morgan and Company? It's not. Wilson's biggest campaign donor, a guy named Cleveland Dodge, Princeton classmate, lifelong friend. Dodge also happens to be a director of National City Bank, Rockefeller's bank. Funny how that works. December 22nd, 1913. Congress is ready to leave for Christmas break. Most members have already gone home. The House and Senate are half empty. That's when they vote on the Federal Reserve Act. It passes the House to 982-60, the Senate, 43-25. Wilson signs it the next day, December 23rd. Here's what the law says. Boiled down, the Federal Reserve will issue currency. It'll set interest rates. It'll act as a lender of last resort to member banks. And this is crucial, it's not controlled by Congress. It's an independent entity. The president appoints the Board of Governors. But once they're in, they answer to no one. Not the president, not Congress, not voters. The Fed can't be audited by the government. Its meetings are private. Its decisions are final. Wall Street is ecstatic. The public, they barely notice. It's Christmas. The law is framed as a reform that'll prevent future panics. No one mentions Jekyll Island. No one mentions the 6 men on the train. Fast forward to 1975. A researcher named B.C. Forbes, founder of Forbes magazine, publishes the first account of the Jekyll Island meeting. He'd interviewed the participants decades earlier. Then, in the National Archives, someone finds a memo. It's from Henry Davison, one of the 6 men. Written in 1910, declassified in the Setantayasi, the memo states the goal to provide an elastic currency to protect member banks from depositor runs. Read that again. Not to protect depositors, to protect banks. Elastic currency is a euphemism. It means the Fed can print money when banks get into trouble. Infinite liquidity. Bail them outie. Socialize the risk. Privatize the profit. When you gamble with depositors' money and win, you keep the winnings. When you lose, the Fed prints dollars, dilutes everyone else's savings, and hands you a check. It's insurance for bankers paid for by you. Sound familiar? 2008. Banks blow up the global economy with subprime mortgage gambling. What happens? The Fed steps in, prints trillions, bails them out. Not one executive goes to jail. Your taxes didn't pay for it. Inflation did. Jekyll Island didn't create a conspiracy. It created a system. A machine, and that machine is still running. Look, the Federal Reserve has done useful things. It probably prevented the Great Depression from being worse. It's managed inflation reasonably well for decades. But here's the question no one wants to ask. Should any institution have the power to create money out of thin air in private, with no democratic oversight? The 6 men on that train didn't think you should get a vote. They built a system where decisions about your purchasing power, your savings, your economic future are made by unelected technocrats in closed-door meetings. Jekyll Island is a museum now. You can tour the room where they met. There's a plaque, it's very polite, calls it a historic financial meeting. Now, doesn't mention the secrecy, doesn't mention the fake names, doesn't mention the memo. Every dollar in your wallet has the words Federal Reserve Note printed on it.